On March 25, 2002, a Kenya Airways flight from Mumbai, India, landed at Nairobi's Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. On board the plane was 35-year-old Priscilla Jemutai Kolongei, an off-duty flight attendant for Kenya Airways. In her luggage was a parcel she had been given in India to deliver to somebody waiting at JKIA. Acting on a tip-off, anti-narcotics officers arrested her at the airport. The package would turn out to be 27 kilograms of heroin worth about 27 million shillings. The case would go on to deliver one of the harshest drug trafficking sentences in Kenya's history and came at a time when the country was already under global scrutiny as a major transit hub for narcotics bound for Europe and beyond. Priscilla Kolongei was arrested and interrogated. At first, she denied everything, but eventually she opened up and gave a disturbing account of how she became involved in drug trafficking. Her story began in 1997 when Priscilla was a flight attendant at Kenya Airways. She said that some of her friends and acquaintances would ask her to carry their packages from various countries abroad to Nairobi. She innocently agreed and started transporting small items such as bed sheets, clothes, lotions, creams, perfumes, and generic medicine. In exchange, she would receive small tokens of appreciation. However, after some time, some of those friends revealed to her that many of those packages contained narcotics. Priscilla was shocked, conflicted, and at the time, struggling financially. She was lured by the promise of quick money and agreed to continue. Priscilla said the drugs were disguised as everyday items such as clothing or perfumes and handed to her at airports or hotels before departure. Despite moments of fear, she managed to slip past security checks at various international airports and went on to smuggle the drugs undetected for years. She revealed that she would be paid between $900 to $2,000 per trip. The money began to flow, and so did the lifestyle that came with it. By the time of her arrest, police established that she had withdrawn large amounts of money from her accounts in 4 different banks in Nairobi. She had also built an impressive portfolio of assets, including a house in Nairobi, property in Eldoret, a cane farm in Chamilil, a tailoring business, and was building a 2 million shilling farmhouse for her retired parents in Uasin Gishu. In addition, she was in the process of financing her brother's enrollment into one of the most prestigious aviation colleges in the United States. However, in March 2002, just as her wealth and influence seemed to be peaking, her high-flying life was about to come crashing down. In March 2002, Priscilla Kolongei was tasked with transporting narcotics from India to Kenya. Although she was off-duty, the promised payout was too lucrative to resist. She flew to Mumbai as an ordinary passenger, collected the package, and boarded a return flight to Nairobi. On the morning of March 25, 2002, her flight touched down at JKIA at 7:15 a.m. As she disembarked, she called a contact in Nairobi, who reassured her that he was on his way to collect the package she had been instructed to deliver. She then proceeded to the baggage hall, where she picked up a suitcase and a travel bag. What she didn't know was that anti-narcotics officers had already been tipped off about an attempt to smuggle drugs through the airport that day. As she wheeled her luggage to the inspection desk, she declared that she was carrying bed sheets. However, custom officers asked her to open her bags. Priscilla was hesitant to comply and attempted to persuade the officer to let her luggage pass, but the officer insisted on conducting a search. As the bags were opened, the officers detected a strange smell coming from inside the bags. Officers escorted Priscilla to a verification room in the customs department. While there, she immediately suspected that she had been set up. A more thorough inspection revealed brown powder wrapped in polythene paper and concealed inside pairs of jeans. The baggage tags matched her air ticket and passport, and she confirmed that the luggage was hers. An inventory was taken that found 33 packages and 2 sachets of the substance. Priscilla signed the seizure notice as samples were forwarded to the government chemist. The results were conclusive. The 27.8 kilograms of brown powder tested positive for heroin. Jonathan Koskei, the then deputy head of the airport police, said that it was one of the largest drug hauls made at the airport at the time. In a later interview, Priscilla Kolongei revealed what happened immediately after her arrest. She said that police confiscated her phone and began speaking directly with a contact who was meant to receive the drugs in Nairobi. Priscilla said she pleaded with the officers to allow her contact to join her, but they refused. At the moment, the weight of her actions began to hit her. The first people she thought of were her 5-year-old daughter and her sick mother, who was due for a hospital checkup. By then, Jomo Kenyatta International Airport had become a scene of chaos, with police officers, journalists, and even her colleagues at the airline crowding to witness her arrest. Anti-narcotics detectives spent the rest of the day interrogating her before extending their search to her home. According to her, her daughter had just returned from school when officers raided the house. The young girl clung to her mother, confused and frightened by the men rifling through their belongings. For the next 3 days, Priscilla was moved from one police station to another as investigators attempted to extract as much information as possible. On the 4th day, she was finally arraigned in court to face drug trafficking charges. Her case moved quickly. Within 7 months, the prosecution had presented overwhelming evidence supported by multiple witnesses, while she had none. Attempts by her lawyer to secure her release on bond pending trial were rejected, with the magistrate ruling that she was a flight risk. Her subsequent appeal at the High Court was also dismissed. At trial, the court carefully examined Priscilla's conduct at the airport and the circumstances of her arrest. The analysis supported the conclusion that she was fully aware she was transporting narcotics and failed to exercise any reasonable care to avoid smuggling illegal substances into the country. Investigators testified that drug barons had recruited her specifically because of her position as a flight attendant, which allowed her to move contraband with relative ease. Her role was to carry narcotics from their sources abroad to dealers waiting in Nairobi. The court was told that Priscilla confessed to being promised 156,000 shillings for the heroin consignment that was seized. She also admitted to receiving more than 70,000 shillings for a previous trip and revealed that her very first smuggling assignment had earned her 720,000 shillings. On November 6, 2002, Priscilla Jemutai Kolongei was sentenced to 18 years in prison, which was the harshest punishment ever handed down to a drug in Kenya at the time. She was also fined 10 million shillings with the warning that failure to pay would add another year to her sentence. Following Priscilla Kolongei's arrest, Kenya Airways moved quickly to contain the scandal, announcing it would work with unions and police to curb drug. Meanwhile, immigration sources revealed that Priscilla's contact at the airport had escaped. Within 2 weeks, the airline dismissed 32 cabin crew and staff suspected of acting as couriers. Anti-narcotics officials revealed that similar incidents involving Kenya Airways staff had occurred in Bombay and the UK, reinforcing international concerns as Kenya was increasingly identified as a major transit point for heroin, hashish, and cocaine destined for Europe. The airline's mass sacking sparked backlash, with workers and their union alleging victimization and demanding proof or reinstatement, while warning that management had long ignored reports of drug barons coercing staff. The case came as Kenya faced growing scrutiny as a key transit point for narcotics bound for Europe, with corruption at airports and seaports blamed for fueling the trade, highlighting a growing international PR crisis for both the airline and the country. After 5 years of taking drugs, Priscilla Kolongei found herself behind bars at Langata Women's Prison. In rare interviews granted to journalists, she claimed that she had been betrayed by people she once trusted, insisting that jealousy had played a role in her downfall. Life in prison marked a dramatic fall from grace. The houses she had begun building were never completed, her brother's dream of becoming a pilot collapsed, and much of her accumulated wealth was lost. The shock of imprisonment also took a physical toll. Within 2 weeks, she had lost 15 kgs, with her weight dropping further in the days that followed. Despite these challenges, Priscilla adapted to a new reality. By diligently following prison rules, she earned a place among a select group of inmates known as trustees. These were long-term convicts recognized for good behavior. Trustees enjoyed privileges such as greater freedom of movement, neatly arranged beds, books, and even access to a television. Out of nearly 700 inmates at Langata Women's Maximum Prison, only 12 held that title, and Priscilla was one of them. Among the group, she stood out as the most educated, the most traveled, and perhaps the most widely known. However, memories of her old life continued to haunt her.
When you come to prison, the first few years of your life, you are like, you want to reflect back and think, where did I go wrong, or what do I want to go and do when I get out there? But with time, as time goes, you lose track. And you are confined. Yes, we have the TV, we have everything around us. You see what is happening in the world, but you are not in touch with anything. So you have your dreams, you want to do this. Maybe when I get out, I want to do this, I want to do this. But with time and age, you really wonder, what am I going to start? Where am I going to start? Where am I going to go? Because you don't know what you're going to do. You have no resources or something like that.
She confessed to missing her job at Kenya Airways, with the sound of planes flying overhead serving as a constant reminder, as the prison lies directly beneath the flight path. To make matters worse, her first official visitor after the arrest was a representative from Kenya Airways delivering her letter of dismissal. She later expressed hope that the airline would still pay her terminal benefits. In July 2015, at the age of 49, Priscilla Kolongei walked out of Langata Women's Prison at 9 a.m., having served 13 of her 18-year sentence. She was released 5 years early for good behavior. Determined to put her past behind her, she kept a low profile, saying she only wanted to move on with her life. Nearly a decade later, on December 30th, 2024, 59-year-old Priscilla Jemutai Kolongei passed away while receiving treatment at the Kenyatta National Hospital. She was laid to rest at her home in Uasin Gishu on January 9th, 2025. Despite her troubled past, family and friends remembered her as a remarkable woman admired for her kindness, wisdom, and commitment to her community. Her death marked the quiet end of a turbulent journey, closing a case that once shocked Kenya Airways and exposed Kenya's fragile position in the global drug trade. Thank you so much for listening and watching until the end. This time I had a bit of a cold, but I hope you enjoyed the video anyway. As always, I would like to know your thoughts on this case, so feel free to comment. I'd also like to thank all 9,771 of you for subscribing and interacting with my channel. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.